Hello guys, welcome back in Goku Manhwa channel. Let's continue. He looked at Jung Se-yeon with a kind of boldness that made her whole body freeze for a second, and he said it with a straight face, that he never said he would only lick her breast. The way he said it carried a hunger that wasn't just playful anymore. It felt like he was thirsty for her soul, for every reaction she tried so hard not to show. His eyes were fixed on her like he already knew how she would respond. Jung Se-yeon looked at him with fury mixed with disbelief, as if her mind was screaming what on earth he was even talking about. Her eyebrows tightened, her lips parted in shock, and she felt her heartbeat jump, not just from what he said but from how casually he said it. She stared at him like he had lost his mind somewhere on the way here. She took a small breath and tried to remind herself why they were even out here in the first place. She finally said that they came here to pick apples and that they should just focus on picking apples. Her voice carried that mix of annoyance and panic, the kind that tries to reset a situation that has already run too far. She turned away slightly, pretending to look at the trees just to avoid meeting his eyes for a moment, because his gaze was almost too much to handle. He didn't back off. Instead, he smiled the kind of smile that showed he had planned something completely different from what she assumed. He stepped a little closer and replied that she really thought he brought her here to make her walk. His smile wasn't innocent at all. It was teasing, confident, and filled with a meaning she wasn't sure she wanted to figure out. Jung Se-yeon felt her irritation mix with nervous energy. She looked at the trees, the path, the basket in her hand, trying to ground herself, but everything felt different now because of the way he was looking at her. His smile lingered like he was waiting for her next reaction, and she could feel the tension growing thicker even though neither of them moved. The apple orchard around them was quiet except for the faint rustling of leaves, but the silence between them carried more weight than the whole place. She stood there, trying to decide if she should walk ahead, pick an apple, pretend she didn't hear him, or confront him again. Meanwhile, he simply watched her, still smiling like he knew the day wouldn't go the way she thought. Jung Se-yeon looked at him, completely overwhelmed, and in her mind she asked if Ju Jungwook really brought her all the way here. The thought flashed through her head with irritation and confusion tangled together. She didn't say it out loud, but it echoed in her expression for a second, sharp enough that he noticed the shift in her eyes. The moment that followed didn't need words. They fell into a silence that felt far heavier than anything they had spoken before. It wasn't awkward. It was charged, almost trembling with tension. He stepped closer, slowly, like he knew exactly what he was doing, and she didn't move away. Their breathing changed first, deepening, sinking without either of them planning it. The space between them felt like it was pulling them together on its own. Then they shared a moment so intense that it felt like everything around them faded out. No trees, no ground, no air, nothing except the closeness of their bodies and the unspoken pull that had been building from the very beginning. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't forced. It simply happened, like something they couldn't stop even if they tried. When he finally touched her in a way that made her feel deeply seen, deeply wanted, her entire body reacted before her mind could catch up. She felt something rise inside her, something warm, overwhelming, and impossible to contain. It wasn't just pleasure. It was the weight of how much she had been holding in. The feeling kept growing, like it had no limit, and she could barely stay still beneath it. He was unstoppable in the way he carried himself, focused, steady, completely drowned in the moment with her. She could sense it in the way he moved, in the way he didn't hesitate, as if he knew exactly what she needed and wasn't afraid to give it. It made her breathless, unsteady, almost surprised by her own reactions. They ended up losing themselves in that moment together, not caring about the orchard or the time or anything else. It became one of those rare moments where two people forget the entire world and only feel each other. By the end of it, they were both exhausted and completely satisfied, sharing a quiet warmth that wrapped around them and refused to let go. They didn't say anything for a while. They didn't need to. The way they looked at each other was enough to show that whatever happened between them wasn't small, wasn't accidental, and wasn't something either of them would forget. They were so lost in each other that the idea of a simple walk had completely slipped from their minds. Everything around them became blurry compared to the way they were holding each other, the way their breaths kept brushing against each other's skin. They forgot the path, the trees, the orchard, everything except the closeness they were drowning in. They kept checking on each other, not with words meant for the world but with quiet questions meant only for the two of them. They wanted to know how the moment felt, how the intensity was for the other, how deep the pull between them had become. Every answer, every reaction, every little breath felt like it joined them closer, making the moment heavier and warmer. The tension between them was so overwhelming that it felt like their bodies were talking for them. They couldn't stop asking, couldn't stop wanting the reassurance that the other felt the same rush, the same heat, the same almost uncontrollable desire. It became a loop, him wanting her response, her wanting his, and it made the atmosphere around them thick with unspoken need. Then, just when it felt like the moment would swallow them completely, Jung Se-yeon suddenly placed a hand on his chest. Her breath was uneven, her thoughts trying to gather themselves. She looked up at him, her eyes still heavy from everything they had shared, and in a soft, trembling voice she said that he needed to hold on for a second. She felt something rise inside her, so warm, so overwhelming, that it almost surprised her. The sensation spread through her body in waves, making her knees weak, making her breath shake, making her whole body feel too light to control. It wasn't just pleasure, it was the exhaustion, the closeness, the rush that had built up between them until she couldn't hold herself steady. He felt her body soften against him, and he whispered her name, Jung Se-yeon, but the rush inside her was so strong that it felt like his voice was coming from far away. He tried again, a little louder this time, calling her name with worry slowly replacing the intensity in his tone. For a second he thought she was simply lost in the moment, too overwhelmed to answer. But when he looked at her face, he realized her eyes were closed, not in distraction, but in complete exhaustion. The moment had taken everything out of her. She had passed out, not in fear or pain, but from the sheer rush of emotion and tiredness that swept through her. Her entire body felt weightless, almost floating, softer than he had ever seen her. She looked peaceful, as if the world had finally quieted inside her. Her breathing was slow, deep, calm, her body lighter than anything she had felt in a long time. He held her steady, making sure she didn't fall, and the intensity of what had just happened still lingered in the air like heat that refused to fade.